It was just after midnight when I pulled into the rest stop, one of those back road pull-offs barely lit by flickering overhead lamps. I'd been driving 14 hours straight and needed to stretch, maybe grab a snack, nothing more. The place was dead quiet. One other rig parked at the far end, engine cold. No signs of life. I stepped down from the cab, gravel crunching beneath my boots when I heard it. Soft footsteps behind me. I turned, and there she was. A little girl, no older than 8, barefoot, standing half in shadow near the vending machines. Her hair hung in stringy clumps and her eyes were wide, unblinking. Before I could say a word, she whispered, "Hi, Jake." I froze. That's my name, but I'd never seen her before in my life. I forced a nervous chuckle, asked if she was lost, if her parents were around. She took a step closer and said it again, this time using a nickname only my older sister ever called me when we were kids. One no one else knew. I didn't laugh after that. Something about the air changed, like the road had split behind me and I'd crossed into something else entirely. I walked toward the lot, calling out for anyone. Parents, travelers, even a clerk inside the convenience shack, but it was empty. Not quiet, empty, no cars, no RVs, no headlights cutting through the trees. Just that eerie mechanical buzz from the rest stoplights. I turned back to the girl, still standing there, staring like she knew something I didn't. I asked her again, gently this time, if she was okay, where her folks were. She didn't answer, just pointed a small finger toward the restroom building across the lot. We walked over together, her little bare feet padding on the concrete. That's when I saw them, her. Footprints, they weren't fresh, they were only hers. They looped around my rig again and again like she'd been circling it for hours, waiting for me to step out. The door creaked open with a rusty moan, and I stepped inside first, the fluorescent light flickering overhead. The smell of bleach and rust filled the air. I checked the stalls, empty. As I turned to call back to her, a hand dryer on the far wall sputtered to life by itself. Then another. The nearest stall banged shut. I jumped. She was right behind me now, clutching my sleeve. Her grip was stronger than I expected. "Don't leave me again," she whispered. My mouth went dry. I don't know you," I said, stepping back. She tilted her head, sad eyes blinking slowly. "Yes, you do." I looked around one more time, trying to make sense of any of it. Still no parents, still no sign of another soul anywhere. I checked my phone. 1 bar, no signal. I thought about calling the cops, but something about the way she looked at me. It didn't feel like a rescue mission. It felt like I was being tested. The stall door creaked again behind us, and she flinched, pulling closer. "You left last time," she said, voice so soft I barely heard it. "Don't do it again." My stomach sank. I didn't know what the hell she meant, but I knew one thing. This night wasn't going to end the way it started. Back in the cab, I wrapped her in my spare hoodie and buckled her into the passenger seat. I didn't know what else to do. She wouldn't tell me her name, and I wasn't about to leave her there in the dark. I figured I'd hit the next truck stop with a signal and call it in. That's when my phone vibrated. One new Amber Alert. Bad reception made it crawl in pixel by pixel. I tapped it, heart already thudding. A girl, maybe 8 years old, reported, missing 3 states over. The photo was low-res, grainy, distorted by motion blur. Could have been her. Could have been any kid. I turned to ask, but she was already staring at me like she knew what I'd seen. She didn't look scared, just waiting. Then the GPS glitched. The route line snapped, recalculated, then spun me in a loop. The voice froze mid-sentence. "Turn left in, the CB hissed to life next. "Don't stop at unlit rest areas," one voice muttered. Another chimed in low and fast. "Decoys, little ones, lure you out, then they come from behind. Always happens around mile 223. The girl looked up at me, calm as ever. "You're going the wrong way, Jake." I flinched. That voice, that exact tone. It wasn't just my name, it was how my sister used to say it when we were kids. Sarcastic, warm, teasing. She died when I was 21. No one else alive says it like that. No one should have. How do you know that name? I asked, my throat closing. She smiled faintly. You told me your route last time. You don't remember? I didn't answer. Couldn't. After the motel, with the red roof you take the curve near the grain tower, she added. Then you stop. The air inside the cab felt thinner suddenly, like I was climbing altitude, though we hadn't moved. I scanned the mirrors, half expecting something to crawl out of the fog. Nothing. Just that damn hoodie rising and falling with her quiet breath beside me. That's when I realized. This wasn't just a lost girl. This was a loop, and somehow, I was back in it. We pulled into a gas station an hour later. Nothing but a single pump island and a tiny booth that looked abandoned. I was going to try my luck with a stronger signal, maybe call someone. Anyone. That's when I saw the van. White. Beat up. Parked crooked near the far pump, engine idling. 2 men stood outside, not filling up, just standing. One had his hands in his pockets, the other kept glancing at us and then away, like he was trying to look casual but had no clue how. The girl stiffened in her seat. I killed the engine. The man closest to us started walking over, slow and careful, lifting a hand, in a half-wave. Hey there, he called, voice forced. That your daughter? I opened the door, stepped down between them and the truck. She's not mine, I said flatly. He hesitated. Well, we've been looking for her. She got away from us. Name? Say that's true? I asked, not taking my eyes off him. Behind me, I heard her step down softly, her breath at my elbow. They followed us last time, she whispered. You forgot. The second guy piped up then, Come on, sweetheart, it's time to go home. But when I asked them her name, neither of them answered. Not once. That was enough. I scooped her, up and shoved her into the cab, locked the doors, and slammed the truck into gear. The van didn't wait. As soon as my taillights lit, theirs flared to life behind me. I punched the accelerator and my trailer groaned as it lurched onto the road, my side mirror filled with white as the van closed the distance, engine snarling like a predator catching scent. That's when the CB crackled. Black rig westbound near mile 243. You've got company. Another voice jumped in. Keep her. Steady. Trooper stations 5 out, don't stop for anything. I gripped the wheel tight, eyes burning from adrenaline. Turn off at the way station road, a third voice cut through. It loops around. Box them in. We're coming. The van surged again, closing in, high beams blinding my mirrors. But now I wasn't alone. The airwaves were alive with voices guiding me out, and whatever game this was, it was no longer theirs. To win. Every turn I took, the van followed, herding me, not chasing, like they knew where I'd end up. The road signs became less frequent, the streetlights thinned. I took a left onto a detour that should have looped back to the interstate, only to find it barricaded. Backed out, turned again, dead end. Each road narrowed until I was crawling past cracked pavement and skeletal trees. That's when the girl pointed. There, she said, voice steady, finger aimed down a dirt service road barely wide enough for a pickup. That's where they take us. I followed her gaze. A faded sign read, State Way Station, closed. Beyond it, half a dozen rusted storage units squatted in a row like coffins in the dark. The van idled behind me, quiet now, waiting. They kept the backpacks in the second one, she whispered. The phones, too. Backpacks? My blood ran cold. I pulled forward, fishtailing across the gravel, then jackknifed the rig across the only exit lane, blocking the road completely. I grabbed the air horn and held it down, the blare cutting through the silence like a war cry. A minute later, flashing lights, red, blue, sirens. I stumbled out of the cab just as 2 cruisers boxed. In the van, armed officers surrounded it, others storming the units. They pried the second one open. Inside were rows of kids' backpacks, each one numbered with a strip of tape. Beneath them, prepaid phones, some still lit. Shoes, too small for anyone past. Grade school. I turned to tell the girl we were safe, but her seat was empty. I ran to the other side, nothing. The cab door hadn't opened. I shouted her name, not that I ever knew it, but there was only the night and the flashing lights. An officer ran over, breathless. "You the one who called it in?" I blinked. "No. My phone's been dead since the gas station." He looked confused. "We got a call. Female voice, said to find the backpacks, said to follow the black rig." I stared at him, heart thudding. She hadn't come with me this time. She'd led me, guided me back to finish something I'd forgotten. Or maybe failed to stop before. Either way, she was gone. They arrested both men that night. Turns out they'd been on the radar for months, suspected of running kids through back roads under the radar. But without solid evidence, there hadn't been a move, until the storage unit opened, until the girl led me there. I told the cops everything, or tried to. They nodded politely, but none of them really reacted, until one of them asked, "So, the girl? She used your phone to call?" I told him again. My phone had been dead since that rest stop. He frowned. "Well, the call came from your number. Female voice, young. Told us where to go. Told us to look inside the second unit. They checked the logs, the dash cam, everything. No footage of her climbing out, no prints in the cab except mine. It was like she'd never been there. I quit that route the next week, but sometimes when I'm out on the road late and my rig hums just a little too quiet, my GPS reroutes without warning. It always tries to send me back to that way station. And when I pull over for the night, I swear I hear soft footsteps on the catwalk behind the cab, like small shoes. Just waiting. Midnight runs are usually quiet. Just me, the hum of the engine, and hundreds of miles of open highway. I've done this route more times than I can count. Same loading dock, same delivery point, same sealed trailer. Nothing strange, nothing special. But that night was different. I was halfway through Nebraska, nothing but darkness ahead and a storm brewing behind, when I caught something strange in my side mirror. Just a flicker at first. Movement. Inside the trailer. I blinked. Looked again. Trailer was sealed, locked by the warehouse supervisor himself. I watched him slap the tag on, paperwork matched. Everything by the book. But there it was again. Movement. Not shadows. Not light tricks. Something shifting inside. I leaned forward, squinting into the mirror. For a split second, I thought I saw a shape. A figure. Pressed against the translucent panel of the trailer wall. Not for long, just long enough for my stomach to tighten. It vanished before I could register what it looked like, but I knew one thing for sure. No one was supposed to be back there. And the second I realized that, the air in the cab turned cold, like whatever was inside had just noticed me too. I stopped for fuel a little after 1 a.m. One of those rural stations, surrounded by nothing but scrub grass and distant fence posts. No other trucks, no attendants outside, just the cold rattle of the pump and the buzz of insects circling the floodlights. I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd seen in the mirror. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was just tired. But I had to check. I walked around back, crunching gravel beneath my boots. The trailer stood there like always, still locked, the seal tag hanging intact. Nothing broken, nothing tampered with. But then I noticed it. A smear on the inside wall. Right behind the translucent plastic window in the upper corner of the trailer door. Condensation, like breath on a mirror. I stared at it, unmoving. The trailer was supposed to be ambient freight. Dry goods, wrapped pallets, no refrigeration. No reason for moisture, no reason for breath. I leaned closer, heart thudding. That's when I heard it. Thud, soft, dull, like a knee or elbow hitting a wall just once. I stepped back, looked around the lot. Still empty. No cars, no people. Just me and that locked trailer. My radio crackled, cutting through the silence. Dispatch. Jake, you're behind. We need you in Omaha by 5:30. No long stops. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the mic. I could report it. Say I needed to open the trailer and inspect. But I knew what they'd say. If the seal's unbroken and the freight's undisturbed, drive. Schedules don't care about gut feelings. I took one more glance at the condensation. It had already started to fade, like it had never been there. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it was some trick of the air or engine heat or road grime. Still, as I climbed back into the cab, I locked the doors without thinking and scanned the mirrors twice before pulling away. And even as the tires rumbled back onto the highway, I couldn't shake the feeling that something inside that trailer had been listening. Worse than that, I think it knew I almost opened the door, and I think it didn't want me to. An hour later, the road stretched out like ribbon, black and endless. The only light came from my headlights and the faint blue glow of the dashboard. It should have been peaceful. Just me, the rig, and the open dark. But I couldn't relax. That tight feeling in my chest hadn't left since the stop. And then I heard it. Skrrk. Just faint enough to question, like metal dragging against metal. I turned down. The radio leaned toward the back wall of the cab. Nothing. Silence. I eased up on the gas. The trailer creaked under its own weight, but then came another sound. Tap, tap, tap. Rhythmic. Not random. Not mechanical. Like fingers or claws. Scratching just beneath the surface. I flipped the CB to channel 19, hoping to distract myself. That's when the static kicked in. Loud, sharp, like it was being pushed through a broken speaker. Then amid the fuzz came a voice. Check your freight. I sat up. Not supposed to be there. I grabbed the mic, pressed the button. Say again? Who is this? Silence. Another burst of static, then, behind the plastic, my skin went ice cold. I flicked the interior lights on, scanned the mirrors. Nothing. Just the long, empty road behind me. I called dispatch. Something's not right, I said. I'm hearing noises in the trailer. I think someone might have stowed away. A pause. Then, trailers. Sealed, Jake. Manifest shows 0 access since loading. We GPS tagged it, no break-ins, it's all secure. I'm telling you, I'm hearing, keep driving, they cut in. You stop now, you'll miss your window. The line went dead. I gripped the wheel with both hands, knuckles white. The scratching started again, closer this time. It moved along the left side wall, then paused. Then the sound of a slow drag like something long and sharp tracing a single line across the inner metal. That's when I realized it wasn't just sound. It was pacing me, moving when I moved, stopping when I slowed. Whatever was in that trailer wasn't cargo. It was something else, and now I knew. It wasn't trapped. It was waiting. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to see for myself. No more guessing, no more static-filled voices. Just answers. I pulled into a rest area just off I-80. A bright one, thank God. Overhead lights buzzed like wasps casting long beams across the pavement. 2 empty semis were parked at the far end, but no drivers in sight. I killed the engine and stepped out. The night was dead quiet. I walked slowly to the back of the trailer, listening with every step. No tapping, no scraping, just the creak of cooling metal. The lock seal was still intact, untouched. But my hands were shaking as I clipped the tag and unlatched the doors. They swung open with a groan, just pallets, shrink-wrapped, stacked, unmoving. The kind of freight I'd seen 1,000. But the air, God, the air inside was warm. Like body heat had been trapped inside, like someone had just been breathing in there. Then something moved. Fast. Low. A shape darted between the last 2 stacks of boxes. I grabbed the flashlight from the side pocket of my cab, flicked it on, and climbed inside. Hey, I called. Out. Voice echoing off metal. Who's back here? No answer. Just silence. I moved between the stacks, swinging the light. Nothing. Then behind me, slam, the trailer door. It had shut. I ran to it, heart pounding, and tried the handle. Locked. From the outside. Then the trailer moved. A jolt. then a rocking, back and forth like something massive had slammed into it. I stumbled, hands sliding against the walls, flashlight beam jumping like crazy. The pallets rattled. The air felt thicker, hotter. It rocked again, harder, a loud bang from the ceiling. I screamed, pounding on the door, kicking it, yelling for anyone, anything to hear me. And then, nothing. It stopped. Silence. The latch clicked. The door creaked open by itself. Cold air rushed in like a gasp. I fell, out onto the pavement, drenched in sweat, lungs heaving. I scrambled into the cab and pulled up the dashcam footage. I scrolled back to the moment the doors closed. Nothing. No movement. No figure. Not even me. I got back on the road, shaking so badly I could barely shift gears. I didn't even care about the schedule anymore. I just wanted this run over and done. Whatever was in that trailer, whatever had locked me in, was beyond anything I could explain. But I couldn't stop. Every time I glanced at the side mirror, my pulse kicked. I kept seeing a blur, a shadow. At first I told myself it was the trailer's reflection warping from highway lights. But then I saw it, clear as day. A face. Pale, too smooth, almost reflective. Watching me, from inside the trailer's front wall. The problem? That trailer had no window. Nothing to see through. I stared so long I started drifting lanes. Snapped. Myself back just in time, and then my engine died out of nowhere, no warning, no sputter, just gone. The cab went dark, my lights cut. I coasted onto a narrow bridge, dead in the middle of nowhere. No phone signal, no CB, just silence. Then, scratch. It came from behind the cab. Slow, deliberate. Fingernails or claws dragging down the steel. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Something. Pressed against the back wall. A push. Like it wanted in. The door latch to the sleeper clicked once. My breath froze. It didn't want to be seen. It had avoided the camera. It stayed hidden in mirrors, but it wanted to reach me. The scratching stopped. Then a whisper. Not a sound. More like a pressure in my ear. You looked. I grabbed the wheel like it could save me. Whispered prayers I hadn't said in years. After what felt like a lifetime, the dashboard lights flickered back. The engine roared to life like nothing had ever happened. I didn't question it. I floored it. Tires screaming, trailer rattling like it weighed 1,000 pounds more than before. Didn't stop again. Not for gas. Not for food. Not for anything. I drove until the sun started to rise, and even then I didn't feel safe. Because in that last stretch of night I realized something. Whatever had been hiding back there wasn't hiding anymore. Rolled into the delivery site just after dawn. The sky was washed in gray and my hands hadn't stopped shaking since the bridge. I must have looked like hell. Bloodshot eyes, white-knuckled grip, sweat soaked into my shirt. The yard worker flagged me down and waved me into the dock. Routine, mechanical, like nothing had happened. They opened the trailer and began unloading. I stood nearby, arms crossed tight, watching like a man waiting for a bomb to go off. "Hey," one of the guys called out. "You notice this?" He pointed to one of the crates, overturned, splintered at the edges. Not crushed, not dropped, cracked open, from the inside, but the freight was all there, all accounted for, manifest matched. No one believed me. I told dispatch, showed them the cam footage. They scrubbed through, expressionless. Nothing. Until I paused it, frame by frame. There in the side mirror just above my shoulder. My reflection. And another face. Pale. Smiling. Wrong, I left trucking that week. But some nights when I park my car too long in the dark, I swear I hear it again. That slow, deliberate tapping on the back window, like something wants back in. I've been behind the wheel for over 2 decades, crossed every state line in the lower 48, and seen some things on these roads that'd give most people a reason to hang up their keys. But nothing, and I mean nothing, comes close to what happened that night in the Appalachians. It was supposed to be a routine delivery, A straight shot through Virginia with a few twists and turns through the mountain passes. But I took a route that don't show up on most maps. Some folks call it a ghost pass. Others just don't talk about it. Thing is, no GPS works out there. Cell towers drop dead the minute you make that final turn off the main highway. I'd heard whispers over truck stop coffee, stories passed between weathered drivers with more miles behind them than ahead. They'd say things like, "Watch your mirrors out there," or, "If your CB crackles when it shouldn't, keep driving." Never believed in tall tales. But what I saw, what I felt on that mountain road still keeps me up some nights. I wasn't alone out there. And whatever was out there with me, it didn't want me to leave. I was making good time until I hit the blinking signs and flashing lights. Rock slide ahead, road closed. A line of brake lights stretched down the highway like a ribbon of red. Dispatch hadn't warned me about this. I pulled off onto the shoulder and waited, fiddling with my GPS. It kept rerouting, spinning its digital wheels, trying to find a way around. The map would blink, shift, then land right back on the same dead-end loop. No signal. Figures. Flicked on the CB even though I hadn't used it in years, static mostly, until a voice broke through, crackly, low, like someone sitting in a basement full of cobwebs. "You stuck at the 220 cutoff?" it asked. I didn't answer at first. "There's a way around, old road. Locals only. Ain't on your maps." "How do I get there?" I asked against every instinct. "Backtrack 3 miles. Dirt road on the right. No name. Watch the trees." Before I could respond, silence. I should have turned back. But deadlines are deadlines, and I've bent rules before. I found the road just where he said, half hidden, narrow as hell with no streetlight in sight. Gravel crackled under my tires as I eased in, the sun already bleeding behind the peaks. The deeper I drove, the more unnatural it felt. The trees on either side crept closer, branches knotted like arthritic fingers overhead. Fog began to pour in. Not misty, gentle fog, but dense, milky stuff that moved like it had a mind of its own. I rolled the window down a crack, hoping to feel the cool bite of mountain air, but instead I was hit with the scent of wet soil and something else, something metallic, like old blood. My radio died first, then my phone. Just cold black screens. Kept driving. That's when I saw it. Something darted between the trees, just at the edge of my headlights. I slammed the brakes. It was tall, impossibly thin, not a deer, not a bear, and it moved with this twitchy urgency, like it was studying me but didn't want to be seen. I sat there for a beat too long. Then I pressed the gas and kept going, pretending it wasn't real, but deep down I knew I wasn't alone anymore. About 30 minutes down that godforsaken pass, I saw a clearing up ahead, just enough to pull over. My knuckles were stiff from gripping the wheel, my eyes burning from staring into fog that never seemed to break. I needed a second to breathe, to shake the growing tension crawling up my spine. So I eased the rig into what looked like an old rest stop. The concrete was cracked and uneven, littered with leaves and what might have been the remains of a shredded tire. A vending machine stood crooked under a flickering lamppost, its glass smashed, insides gutted. No other trucks. No cars, no sounds. Aside from the soft pop of my engine cooling, I stepped out, stretched, and that's when I heard it. Faint, just above the wind. Whispering. Not words exactly, but tones. 2 voices, maybe more, hissing back and forth like they were arguing. I froze, looked around. Trees. Just trees. Probably raccoons, I told myself. Maybe wind. But as I walked toward the vending machine, my boots scuffed something deep in the pavement. I looked down, gouge marks, not tire skids, not scraped metal. These were long, jagged, uneven, like something had clawed at the asphalt, and they were fresh. Bits of concrete still crumbled at the edges. That cold pressure returned, like I was being watched. I turned, ready to get back in the truck, when my heart damn near exploded. Someone was in the cab. A man. He sat perfectly still in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead. His clothes were a torn uniform, maybe a ranger or trucker, but coated in mud, grime, dried streaks of something darker. His skin was pale, too pale, and his eyes, they didn't blink. Just glassy, fixed. I shouted, more from instinct than courage. "Hey, what the hell?" And in the blink of an eye, he was gone. No door slam, no footsteps, just gone. I scrambled, up into the cab, locking the doors even though it felt ridiculous. My heart was hammering so loud I almost missed the sound behind it. Krk, the CB radio, the same dead unit I'd tossed under the dash years ago. It crackled, then a voice broke through. Low, raspy, slow. "You were warned, son." I didn't. Stop again. Whatever that thing was back in the cab, it rattled me deep. I told myself I was just tired, maybe too much caffeine and highway noise messing with my head. But the truth? I was scared in a way I hadn't felt since I was a kid, paralyzed but moving. The road narrowed even more as I kept going. The fog thickened until it wasn't just covering the road, it was moving through it. Not drifting like fog should, but coiling and splitting, like it was alive. I rolled the window down just to make sure there was still air out there. The silence felt wrong. It didn't sound like the mountains anymore. It didn't sound like anywhere. That's when I heard the footsteps above me, on the roof of the cab. Steady, deliberate pacing, heel-to-toe thuds. I swerved, thinking maybe a branch had fallen. But no, something was up there. I floored it, hoping to shake it off, but the footsteps only got faster. I checked the side mirror, and that's when I saw it. Something running alongside the trailer. Not a man, not an animal, just a shape. Long limbs, no real face. Pale like fog, but darker at the edges. It was fast, too fast. I slammed the brakes and spun the wheel hard, trying to turn around, only the road behind me was gone. Just thick trees, no gravel, no tire tracks. The GPS, long dead, blinked back to life for half a second. The screen was cracked, but I could still read it. No return. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. Shapes began, crawling across the inside of my windshield. Like frost, but moving. Twitching. Crawling toward me. I wiped at them, frantic. Nothing there. My own reflection started to warp. My face stretched, distorted, like the glass was trying to remember what I looked like. I hit the horn, flashed my brights, screamed out the window like a lunatic. Then, light ahead. Headlights. Another truck. Relief hit me like a shot of whiskey. I floored it, closing the gap. Finally, someone else out here. But as I got closer, I saw the rig was just like mine. Same make, same trailer number, same faded bumper sticker from a rest stop in Texas. I wasn't following someone. I was chasing myself. I don't know how long I followed that other truck. 10 minutes, an hour, maybe more. Time didn't feel right anymore. The fog pulsed around me like a living thing, and the road just kept stretching. Finally, I saw a break in the trees, a clearing, wide enough to pull over and breathe again. But there were no lights, no signs, just open space. I rolled in slow. At first it looked empty. Then the shapes emerged, truck cabs, buried halfway into the ground like forgotten gravestones. Rusted out, twisted frames, windows shattered. Some had vines crawling through the grills. Others were crushed inward like something big had stepped on them. There were no plates, no logos, just ghosts of vehicles left to rot. I killed the engine and sat there staring. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Behind me. In the cab. It was slow, wet, human, like someone exhaling through cracked lips right behind my head. My skin turned to ice. I turned fast, seat empty, but the passenger seatbelt was buckled. I didn't buckle it. Before I could move, the CB lit up again. Ksharkakakak. The voice that came through was mine, twisted, slurred, like it was trying to mimic me. Don't stop. Don't sleep. Don't talk to them. I couldn't breathe. Those weren't just words. They were warnings, rules, and I broke the first one. I thought back to something an old-timer told me in a Tennessee truck stop years ago. We were swapping weird road stories and he leaned in, voice low. "You ever get offered the pass?" he asked. "What pass?" "The one that don't exist. Don't take it. It eats men. Keeps them in circles. Makes them forget. Makes them repeat." I'd laughed then, brushed it off. But now I was starting to understand. This place wasn't just haunted. It was alive, feeding on the lost, drawing them deeper every time they tried to escape. It showed you things, used your own voice, made you question what was real. And the worst part? I didn't know if I'd just arrived, or if I'd been driving this loop for years. I don't remember blacking out. One moment I was gripping the wheel, fog curling in through the vents, the CB whispering warnings in my own voice. And the next, sunlight was streaming through the windshield. I was parked, engine off, at a regular truck stop just outside Roanoke. People bustled around me. Like it was any other morning, everything looked normal. My GPS was working again. My phone had full bars. I checked my logbook. No missed turns, no time unaccounted for. According to the logs, I'd never left the highway. Never even found that detour. But something felt wrong. The tank was almost full. I'd driven close to 200 miles and barely used any fuel. That doesn't happen. Then I saw it. A small note, sitting on the dash. Yellowed, curled at the edges. Just 4 words, scrawled in red ink. "You were warned." My mouth went dry. I looked up, into the mirror, and for a split second I didn't recognize the eyes staring back. They were mine, but colder, slower, like they'd seen something I hadn't caught up to yet. I got out of there fast, but I still checked the mirrors too long. Sometimes, and every so often, I hear breathing. I've done overnight hauls my whole life, slept in more cabs than beds, crossed more state lines than I can count. But what happened last Thursday, I still can't explain. I woke up behind the wheel, engine humming low, parked in some fog-drenched clearing I didn't recognize. No highway, no road, just trees, silent and still like they were waiting for something. My hands were still on the wheel. My foot rested on the brake. It was like I'd never stopped driving, but I had no memory of getting there. I checked the dash. The clock said 6:12 a.m. My logbook showed I'd been driving for nearly 4 hours straight. That's impossible. I remember pulling off around 2 for a quick rest. I hadn't even finished my coffee. Yet somehow I'd covered miles of distance in total silence and complete darkness. Not mentally, literally. Nothing but blank space. In my mind. A void. I thought maybe I'd blacked out. Maybe exhaustion had finally caught up with me. But my fuel gauge had dropped. My tires were warm. And the weirdest part? The GPS didn't show any road at all. Just a blinking dot in the middle of nowhere. Something had taken over, and I wasn't sure it was just me. It started like any other overnight haul. Just me, my rig, and a long stretch of Kentucky 2-lane. I passed mile marker 122 a little after midnight. I remember because I glanced at the clock and did that mental math every trucker does. If I kept a steady pace, I'd make my drop with time to spare. The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that creeps in and sits heavy on your shoulders. No cars, no distant headlights, just my own beams carving through the dark. Then I saw the billboard, half collapsed, leaning off the right shoulder, advertising a barbecue joint that probably hadn't served a plate in decades, Smokey Joe's next exit. I gave it a passing glance and kept rolling. But 5 minutes later, there it was again. Same tilt, same torn edge. At first I thought I'd zoned out, missed a turn. I checked the GPS. It was stuck buffering. The screen pulsed, trying to load a route, then blinked back to the same mile marker I'd already passed. No exits. No towns, no sign of Smokey Joe's. The road had emptied out completely, like the world forgot this stretch existed. Eventually I pulled over, figuring a quick break would clear my head. I poured some coffee from the thermos, leaned back, closed my eyes, for just a minute. When I opened them, the coffee was cold in my lap. The sun was threatening the horizon, and my odometer read 80 miles further than it should have. I hadn't driven those miles, not consciously. My seat was still in the upright position, my hands smudged like I'd gripped the wheel the whole way. The fuel had burned off exactly what it should have for that distance. But I remembered nothing. No road, no trees, no radio, chatter. Just that first billboard. And then darkness. It didn't feel like sleep. It felt like something had borrowed me, used me, and then dropped me back behind the wheel before I noticed I was gone. Back at the next truck stop, I pulled in, under buzzing floodlights, and shut off the engine, heart still beating too fast. I needed answers. I opened my logbook, digital, synced automatically, and there it was. 4 hours of steady driving, logged like clockwork, start to finish. But I didn't remember a single second of it. Fuel level matched the miles. Tires warm to the touch. Brake dust clung to the hubcaps like any normal run, except I wasn't behind the wheel. Not really. I chalked it up to a blackout, stress, lack of sleep. But that theory cracked the moment the CB radio came alive. I hadn't used that thing in years. It was dusty, wires half disconnected, no antenna worth a damn. But as I sat there trying to slow my breathing, it crackled, then hissed. Then, clear as anything, I heard it. James. My name. Drawn out, low. My blood ran cold. Then came the next part. You're not supposed to be here. The voice wasn't mine, but it felt close, like someone trying to sound like me and failing just slightly, off in the mouth, hollow in the chest. I jumped out of the cab, walked a full circle around the rig, flashlight in hand. No one. No cars. Just the wind pushing against the diesel tanks, soft and constant. I got back inside and did the one thing I never thought I'd need to. I checked the dash cam footage. My rig auto records every trip. There had to be something. First 2 hours, normal. Empty road, occasional reflector flash. Then came static. Long stretches of it, just black and white noise. I scrubbed forward, watching that fuzz blur past. Until something appeared, a single frame, me, standing outside the truck, driver's door wide open, but the camera angle showed deep woods behind me. Pine trees, dense and close, no road in sight. I wasn't moving. Just standing there like I was waiting for something. Then the feed went dead. I stared at that frozen image of myself, surrounded by trees that don't exist near I-75. That's when I realized I hadn't just lost time. Something had taken me somewhere else. I couldn't let it go. I don't know if it was fear or pride or just plain stubbornness, but I needed to know where those 4 hours went. So the next morning, I fueled up, reloaded the log data, and tried to follow the route back. The GPS showed the same stretch. I supposedly drove cutting through a patch of rural backroads near Elk Ridge, Kentucky. Nothing unusual on the map, just a winding 2-lane curve, surrounded by forest. I figured if I could get eyes on the spot, maybe it'd jog something loose. But as I followed the pin, something felt off. The roads didn't line up. A right turn I was supposed to make didn't exist, just a dead end into a field of dense trees. Another road listed on the map had been swallowed by overgrowth, weeds waist-high, no signs, no tire tracks. It was like the land itself had pushed the roads out. Finally, I reached the exact coordinates from the log. According to my system, I should have been smack in the middle of a long, narrow pass. But there was nothing. Just thick, unbroken forest. No gravel, no clearing, no evidence a vehicle had ever passed through. I sat there staring into the woods, feeling a pressure I couldn't explain. Not fear exactly. Something older than fear. Like the trees were watching. I backtracked and found a small gas station near the county line. A dusty place with flickering lights and a tired old guy behind the counter. I asked him if that old route through Elk Ridge was still active. He didn't answer right away, just stared at me. Then I showed him the log on my tablet. The color drained from his face. You went there? I nodded, confused. According to the system, yeah. Why? He shook his head slowly. That road's been closed for years. Washed out in '08. Took 3 cars with it. State never rebuilt it. What happened to the cars? I asked. He didn't answer, just muttered. After the accident, things changed out there. Then he looked me dead in the eye and said, "Whatever road you drove, it wasn't ours." I left that place fast, but I couldn't shake the feeling I'd crossed into something I wasn't supposed to. After leaving the gas station, I headed north, dead silent the whole ride. I couldn't stop thinking about what that old man said. If I didn't drive a real road, then where the hell was I for 4 hours? What had I passed through? What had passed through me? I pulled over just before dark, parked along a quiet stretch off Route 40. I figured I'd get a few hours of rest before I completely lost my grip on reality. I climbed into the sleeper cab, kicked off my boots, and froze. There were muddy footprints on the floor. Not mine. Different tread, smaller, barefoot. They tracked from the sleeper door to the side of the bed, then vanished. The mattress was damp, like someone had been lying there. And the worst part? The passenger seatbelt was buckled. I hadn't had a passenger since 2016. I backed out of the cab like it might explode, scanning the dark tree line beyond the road. Nothing, not a sound. But inside the rig, it didn't feel still anymore. It felt alive. That night, I sat in the driver's seat, too wired to sleep, engine running just to feel something familiar. Then the cabin shifted. Not like wind or suspension, like breathing. The walls expanded and contracted. The air got thick. The rearview mirror. I saw a shape. No features. Just a dark figure, hunched and still, watching me from behind the passenger seat. I turned my head. Nothing there. Just the belt, still clicked into place. Karkuk. The CB flared up again. You brought it back, that voice again. Mine, but not. Hollow. Echoing from somewhere beneath my skin. I slammed the volume knob and yanked the wires from the back, but the speaker kept buzzing, low and deep, like a growl trying to form words. I felt cold breath on my neck. But there was no one behind me. Whatever happened that night, I lost time. It wasn't just a blackout, it was space being filled. I used to think I was alone on that road, that I'd simply drifted through a bad patch of memory. But now I think I wasn't the one driving, and whatever was, might still be here. I filed the report the next morning. Log discrepancies, missing time, possible tampering. I sent over screenshots, dashcam references, coordinates. I expected confusion, maybe concern, but when they got back to me, all they said was, "There's no record of that route." My logs were gone. The system showed a clean haul, uninterrupted. No errors, no missing hours. Even worse, my dashcam, gone. Memory wiped, like it had never recorded a second of the trip. I parked the rig in my driveway and let it sit. A full week. I couldn't bring myself to touch the wheel, let alone get back on the road. Every night I'd check the cab. Still. Silent. Until night 7. My phone rang around 2 a.m. Neighbor's voice shaky. "Hey, is your truck supposed to be running?" I threw on boots and ran outside. The engine was on. Headlights glowing dim through the mist. I hadn't started it. I was the only one with keys. I opened the door. Passenger seatbelt. Buckled. And on the inside of the windshield, 5 smeared fingerprints dragging downward from the glass. No one believes me. But I know. What I saw, whatever drove those missing hours, it's still with me and it wants another ride.